Pasha Paroh, YNS7. Thank you for tuning. I'm back. It's been a minute. I know. Been working on some stuff. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff getting done. So, had a great conversation with a colleague, and in that conversation, she brought up a question about the SF-181 form, which I didn't know off the top of my head it was the SF-181, but I was familiar with the document nonetheless. And I think sometimes we hold back on opportunities waiting for others, and we got to recognize sometimes the Most High just sends you the signal, to gives you a little nudge, give you the reminder. You got to pay attention to the signals and the signs. Okay? So I've done videos about this topics individually. However, in this one, I'm going to pull it all together for you. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to briefly review the SF-181. You're all familiar with it. You'll know what it is as soon as you see it. And I'm going to tie this into the history on the American Indian, because there's a group of people currently, and it's probably growing, that are looking to consider themselves American Indian, and they go back and of course they say, for those that know, people that look like me were the original, also the original American Indian. What they're actually hiding in the current use of the term is that a lot of people that look like me, and what y'all would consider, not y'all, but many people would consider or label them the term black, we were already here, and we were already civilized with our little nation, and that's part of what was destroyed in the manipulation of the history once you start to dive into it. So we're going to look at that. I want you to think about the parallels between them and what you see when you think about us, as far as when you think about us in the civil rights movement. You're going to see some extremely close things. And I want to go over really what divided us, because we got this sick addiction to labels and titles, and it really destroyed us in the past, and it's only destroying everybody again today. I ain't gonna say everybody, but those who are unfamiliar of the minority, for the same reason. The books say the people perish due to lack of knowledge. All right. Okay. So we're going to go over that. We're going to look at the intricacies of how simple the deception is, but how massive of an impact it can make. All right. And I'm going to show you some examples, and then we're going to get up out of here. Okay. And I'll look to be more regular again in the future for you all. Thank you for your patience. So let's look at the SF-181 form, which is this right here. Okay. Let's see if I can get it. Well, you've seen this before, right? This is on the bottom, or I ain't gonna say the bottom, but a lot of many job applications have this. Many other things you fill out have sections that include this category of questioning. Okay. So when you look at this, you know me, I always have some notes because I want to make sure I cover everything for you that I want to give you today. So when you look at this, you see that it's defining. At the top, it says the specific instructions. The two questions below are designed to identify. I want you to remember that statement, that part of the statement. Designed to identify. Scratch the rest. I mean, you could really just get rid of the rest to make it simple, what I'm trying to point out here, because a lot of us, many of us know how to read, right? They taught us how to read, but they purposely didn't teach us to comprehend what we're reading. You ever have someone at work, like, I know words, and especially since I had the Bell's palsy, like, I don't pronunciate as well as I used to 15 years ago because I don't have the full motor skills in my face since then. But the people that they speak so eloquently and they carry the word to enunciate every letter, you know what I mean? They sound so good, but they don't know what the fuck they're saying. They sound so good, but they don't know what the fuck they're saying, right? So you got to be careful of those people who sound so good, don't know what the fuck they're saying, and take 10 minutes to tell you that they don't know what the fuck they're saying. But they don't realize that they're telling you they don't know what the fuck they're saying, and it took them 10 minutes to do that, right? Because they hear themselves and they sound so good. So people like the things that sound good, but they're not really into the quality, right? So we're going to get down into the quality here, and let's go over this. So when you look at this, the important part I have highlighted, designed to identify, okay? So these two questions below are designed to identify your ethnicity and race. So regardless of your answer to question 1, go to question 2. So question 1 says, are you Hispanic or Latino, right? And it says, I should have highlighted this part too, and I'll tell you why I had that highlighted in a moment. It says, a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American or other Spanish culture or origins, regardless of race. All right. Then question number 2 says, please select the racial category or categories which you most closely identify by placing an X in the appropriate box. Check as many as apply, right? And it tells you American Indian or Alaska Native. And it defines that as a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. And it says Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Okay. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa, Native, Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. And then white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples, in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. And the point my colleague was making, and hope to get her back on here in the future, is she was expressing that the term black, she was saying how the people need to decide what they want to be called. And she was pitting it between black or American Indian. And she was making a point here that when you look at this SF-181, she said that the term black or African American is the only one of all of these five that doesn't say original peoples. Like the American Indian says, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North, South, Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of, and white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of. But see, what it says for black and African American, she pointed out, is a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. And, I applauded her for the observation. And I find that, having emotional attachments to beliefs without knowledge of is always going to be dangerous, right? So what I was explaining to her is it's still a trap for those who don't comprehend the language, right? This is why when you go to work, your job don't want you to be intelligent, because you're going to comprehend that they're bullshitting you. And when you pull their card, they don't know they didn't know what they were saying either, right? They were just repeating what someone told them to say or what they read somewhere, so they don't know. And then when you tell them, now they're embarrassed, right? And they want to tell you can't talk like you're intelligent. Okay, well, we'll see how that play out with language discrimination under the National Origins Discrimination Protection, right? Try that with your employer, okay? When they tell you can't go to work and sound intelligent because of their projection on how they think you should sound or what you should talk like, okay? Or that you shouldn't be that intelligent is basically what they're telling you. You shouldn't know how to read. So the trick is not that it's saying original peoples. And that's what I want to point out to you guys today. And I'm going to show you the backstory. I'm going to show you how we got here. And I'm going to show you everything. So let's get to it. See, I highlighted the word a person because that's what each of these have in common. All right? That's what each of these have in common. The word a person. Yes, black is the only one that doesn't have original peoples. But that's not the danger. And that's not to say, oh, go call yourself American Indian, because it says it's the one that says a person of having origins in the original people. Like black is the only one that doesn't, and African American is the only one that doesn't say having origins in any of the original peoples. That's not the trick. The trick is that all of these statements start with, even a Hispanic, a Latino, start with a person. So what you have to do is go research what a person is. We went over this in the video where I was, I think I titled it, "How long will you let someone call you something other than your name?" And it's the image with the little kid with his hand raised in class, and he looks like what people would call black, when I'm telling you to look at it as American, right? Now, in common conversation, I simply just say American. I don't say Moorish. I don't say American Indian, because you got to understand what a person is. The United States has 3 ways to have property. It's territories per the United States Code itself. It's territories, which we went over that in a video. Go check it out. It's possessions, like if it owns the power plant. When you step in the gate of the power plant on its property, you are technically in the United States at that point. The other category is its political subdivisions. And see, that's dangerous because anytime you go look at that long list, you'll see that more is on there. You'll see that all this stuff is on there. And when you check that off, you don't know what you're doing and you don't know why it's there and you don't know what it means. Unless you watch this video and share it with everybody you know. Thank you for tuning. So, person. Let me get that up here for you real quick. All right. Because what we're dealing with here is that age-old term, status determines jurisdiction. And what that means is what law, your nationality basically determines what law applies to you. All right. So I said, in common conversation, because you still gotta be careful when you're speaking regularly. That's why when people be like, oh, you're black, and I had to tell them, no, I'm American, because a verbal contract is the same as a written contract. See, y'all worried about getting exposed, falling down the escalator. You see what I'm saying? Someone catch you on video on the escalator. People like us got to worry about someone filming you saying that you're agreeing to being black after, you done stated that in another venue you're American, and they can hold that against you as you're not being consistent because it's a contract. So you're not trying to be rude to people. They don't understand the significance of language. But what we need to do is when someone calls you out your name, hey, you're black, or hey, you're Latino, or whatever they want to call you, you need to let them know what you really think you are, which may not be what they're implying they think you are. All right. So I say I'm American. Why? Because if you go back to the SF in the common sense, if you go back to the SF, American and Latino was what? Cuba, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South Central America, right? American Indian is peoples of North and South America, right? Native American, Hawaii. What was it? White was included. Well, they don't have it listed on here. In some of these, you'll see that in some versions of this, you'll see that it says for white, the original peoples, they'll include the continent North America as well on some of these, right? But American Indian, Native Alaska, Latino, all listed here from the continents of North, Central, and South America. So if you were born on this side of the world, you're American, regardless of what border you think you crossed, whether it was the border of Georgia to get to Alabama, or if you came from Venezuela to Cuba, whatever. All right, we're all American. Okay. Now that's the common language for me. When they get technical and they want to get on these check boxes and stuff, or get on some official shit, that's when I refrain from all of that shit that could be mistakenly implied. Because in the conversation with a colleague, she said, hey, because if you don't check the box, they're allowed to look at you and decide. And for those that don't know this is accurate. Like if you don't check a box and you go to any of these little institutions or anything that are giving you these forms, they are allowed to go back behind you afterwards. Legally, you could say it's not lawful, whatever, but legally they're allowed to go back behind you after you leave and fill in what they believed you to be, right? And if they stereotype you and they just make the assumption, then boom, they can check the box they think applies to you. That's why whenever you sign something, I would recommend, for entertainment purposes, that you include UCC 1-308 after every signature. I don't care what you're signing. I even have that on my driver's license. People said you can't put it on your driver's license. They won't let you. And I pull it out and I show them. I have it UCC 1-308 on my driver's license. Now, what that does is it actually lets you, Pasha, you don't need a driver. I know I'm a traveler, but you can have a driver's license. I just don't need it to travel. So I don't have to adhere when I'm not driving, but if I was to drive, right, then I have a license for it. But it shows ID otherwise. So the point of the matter is, UCC 1-308 basically allows you to, what you're saying by doing that is, some people say, oh, rights reserved. And then if you don't know what that means, basically what you're doing is you're stating that, hey, just in case there's any details that I'm not fully made aware of, or any reason basically to need to revisit this agreement that I'm signing here, I'm leaving it open with the option to revisit in a future time. That's basically what your rights reserved is. See, if you just go and sign it, now you have adhesion. You have adhesion. That means you agree to all the terms as stated. You know everything, because now you're assumed to be part of the majority, which is just basically meaning you're competent and able to handle your own affairs. See, but in reality, they want you to be the minority, not in the way you think the word minority means, but in the fact of it being incompetent to conduct one's affairs. Like when you go to court, you can't say nothing because they're treating you like a child as a minority, and that's why the lawyer has to speak for you or represent your case, because they're assuming you to be a minority or one who is incompetent to conduct one's own affairs. Okay, but we don't, as a whole, know what these words actually mean. We have emotional attachments to beliefs of what we think they mean, and that's the danger of going out into society, throwing around these words and slang, thinking we know what we're talking about. And then when someone like me comes along, or you from White at 7, they judge us because we're saying something different, or we have a different vibe about what they are embracing, and they don't know why. But see, the danger is, if that ignorance becomes a norm, then I'm going to show you what we lost as a result of that. Okay? Now, here we go. Person, per Black's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition, 1933, original copy, is a man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and duties which it imposes. See, this is what I'm saying. If you get called black, or you call yourself black, then you are considered according to the rank you hold or claim. Let's add the word claim there, in society, with all the duties, all the rights, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and duties which it imposes. All right. Now I have highlighted on this one over here on the right, an American Indian, or an Indian is a person, and we're going to revisit that. That is crucial to your civil rights. And that's why I titled this, and this is why things are the way they are today, because we didn't know the history when Martin Luther King was selling you the dream, or Michael Luther King, because I know his name wasn't Martin, it was really Michael, but who really takes time to research truth or not? Now, why did I say status determines jurisdiction? Here you are with that. Okay. Status is the legal position of the individual in or with regard to the rest of the community. Duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class constitute his status. So let's go back to the SF-181. Check this box, please, whatever you do. And by the way, if you don't, we're going to assume for you and check one. This status determines jurisdiction. Why are they trying to gain jurisdiction? Or let me just say that again. This is an attempt to gain jurisdiction over you. That is why it doesn't matter if you say you're Hispanic, American Indian, Asian, Black, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, white, all having origins in. That is the manip. That is the game being played on you. Here is a little bit further down in the definition. Definition of person is like almost a page long. Okay. So here's a little bit further down in the Black's Law Dictionary on the definition of person. Hold on, give me a second. Let me check my notes, make sure I'm giving you everything in order, because I wanted to make sense for you so that you're prepared to comprehend when I show you the history of the American Indian and how they did the same thing to us all, not just Black people, what you're calling Black people, not just, you people that think you're white sitting out there laughing because you feel privileged or entitled. Guess what? The fucking shit say a person under white too. The civil rights movement got you too. All of you are in the same boat. This is why I say the whole United States is the same as whatever they used to call us back in the day. All right. That's why I say that, for those who had emotional attachments to beliefs and be like, oh, he don't think he a United States citizen. He crazy. Pasha don't know what he talking about. Okay, I got you. I'm going to show you today. All right. This is what they did. So you're a person to them, but you don't know what a person is. Okay, let's get it. Here we go. So down here it says, but a corporation. Let me go back here. Let me show you. Let's go back to the full page. All right, here we go. The full page. So at the top here it says, let's go revisit this. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. And it gives you the court case to go view the citation for that. Now it says this term is, however, more extensive than men. Here, let me make this bigger. Excuse me. Than men. It may include artificial beings as corporations. This is why you hear people telling you that you have to look at your mail differently, or anything that comes, your name comes in all caps. Because if it's in all caps, they're not talking about you. They're talking about this other person that your mother gave them the spelling for, who happens to look like the spelling of what your mother calls you, but it's not you. All right? Unless you claim to be it because of the incompetency, which is why they consider us be in the minority category, not able to conduct our own affairs, because they look at us like we don't know what we're doing, because we really don't in a lot of cases, right? All right. So this term is, however, more extensive than men. It may include artificial beings as corporations, right? Territorial, foreign corporations, all kinds of stuff that goes on here, okay? So now it says, go down a little further, and it says, under statutes forbidding the taking of property without due process of law and giving to all persons the equal protection, etc., etc. So it goes on and it breaks this all the way down for you. Now let's go to the bottom, towards the bottom of the page here. So now this will make sense. But a corporation of another state is not a person within the jurisdiction of the state until it has complied with the conditions of admission to do business in the state. So now, let me translate that for you. It's saying, if you are a person like you gotta first know what a state is. A state is it could be physical and it could be intangible. It could be tangible and it could be not tangible. It could be real, border, it could not, it could be a thought process. Like, what is your state of mind? Okay, so don't get caught up on what you believe the word state means. That's the magic, that's the sorcery, that's the English is an equivocal language, meaning set up with the intent to deceive or confuse, or other sources, it just means that it has multiple meanings. All right, but if it has multiple meanings and you're not aware of all of them for each word, then you're subject to be vulnerable. They love your they are in love with your vulnerability. Okay, this is why people like me exist in the world in a time like now, because we are going to help galvanize you for the future of the community. That's sustainability. Okay, so it says, but a corporation of another state. So remember what we just went over about a person. It could be a corporation. Remember, you got these people that you thought were crazy. Not all of you, Y-7, I know some of you get it, but for the new people, you got the people that you thought were crazy coming to you like, yo, your name in all caps ain't your name, bro. That's not you. And you're like, man, get the fuck out of here, man. That crazy shit, man. They're come get you. And I don't want to be next to you when they do, because they might take me too. And I just love this little free, you're using the word love wrong. I just love this little world that we're in. This society is so fucking great, man. This is America. Yeah, United States citizen. And fuck that shit, all right? Your all capital letter name, it's all caps because it's basically they got you as they got you looking like a corporation. So if you are a person or a corporation, right? So it says, but a person, well, you think you're a person / corporation, but it's really not you, but some of you didn't know that you're separate until now, but we got that now. So let's move on and really dive into this statement of what it means, the first highlighted one. So, but a corporation of another state. So basically we could substitute the word corporation of another state and put in a person. Okay. So we could say, but a person of another state. Now, what's that? It could be, North and South Carolina. It could be Maryland and DC. It could be Alaska, California. It could be Mexico and the United States. It could be your thought process is different. That's a different state of mind. Okay. So as long as you're of another state. Okay. Now let's reread this from where we got so far. A corporation or a person from another state, tangible or intangible, is not a person within the jurisdiction of that state. Meaning, if you are looking to go back to the SF-181, if you're coming to apply for the job, you are not a part of the company, right? Until you comply with the conditions of admission to do business in that company. Okay, you get it. I know you get it. So let's reread the statement. But a corporation of another state is not a person within the jurisdiction of the state until it has complied with the conditions of admission to do business in the state. So now let's go back to the SF-181 and you see why no matter what option you pick, it starts with a person, but they don't tell you what person type they're referring to. The artificial person or the corporation person, the state person, or the you person. You see, this is why you'll hear me say, I am the natural person. And then when I refer to this shit, they want me to believe I am. I say, okay, well, look, let's say you call some, they say, okay, we need you to identify yourself, right? Okay, well, I'm calling regarding the juridical person. What do you mean? Are you Pasha Paroh? Are you such and such? Are you, whatever your name is? I'm the natural person. You see, you get so emotionally attached to I'm Moorish or I'm this and I'm that and I'm this, I'm black and I'm white and da-da-da-da. No. Okay, you may be. But when they ask me, when they talking to me, oh, you're talking to the natural person. Let me make that clear because this is probably a recorded line. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. And it goes so much smoother. They might be confused for a moment, but it's so. I've been in the position 15 years ago when I used to think, in the terms of Moorish, and well, not Moorish, because ISH, we know what that means. That means like, not the real thing, but of being a Moor or being this something else or these titles. And when you learn more about it, that's when I just started saying, you know what, I'm the natural person. So because people have such a fear of what they don't know, and a lot of you that have used, talk to people that say, you're this, you're that, you get the feedback, you get the resistance factor, you get the whole distraction of what you're actually there for, to intertwine with why you this or why you saying you're that, and aren't, fuck all that shit. Write on there, natural person, if you want to. Sign the form UCC 1-308 for entertainment purposes. All right. And that way, if it ever comes up in the future, I can say, well, we can revisit this now because you didn't have a proper option for me to select. So what did you want me to do? And then now you can articulate in the future because you don't have adhesion, because you reserved your rights in the signature process. Okay. Let me make sure I got everything here for you. So yeah. Okay. So remember the video that we did where I went over the registration factor. See, this, now that you got this concept down, this actually certifies the importance of registration and the danger of registration, like when you're voting or registering a vehicle, or your automobile to become a vehicle, whatever, right? Because I said in the past, which I forget the lady's name, like about 20 years ago, I saw one of her videos and she put it in the best condensation form, right? It was give stock or ownership in, right? And if we go here and look at the word register in the Black's Law Dictionary, 1933, third edition, it says, an officer authorized by law to keep a record called a register or registry, as the register for the probate of wills, right? Then it says a book containing a record of facts as they occur, kept by public authority, a register of births, marriages, and burials. And you could probably, for make it make sense, put etc. or IG, right? So this is now, go back to the SF-181 form. This is a register. You are registering. You are certifying to be some sort of a person that you don't know which person they're actually speaking about, what person type, because you're so focused on, or we've been so focused as a community on all of the words that came after the first two, when the first two is what was the uppercut. You sleep after you get to a person having, you're already asleep at that point. They done knocked you the fuck out. You don't even know it. You're caught up on, we're caught up on any of the original peoples of where? Oh, and then black doesn't have original peoples. It says black racial groups. Okay, so now they get you distracted and divided on that when they done knocked every one of us out with the word of person. The first two, uppercut, boom, combo, boom, ding, out, lights out, done, deal, game over. You registered that you're a person and you didn't even check to see which type of person they're referring to. So you don't know that they aren't even still, no matter what this form says, they are not talking about the natural person, and you registered the fact that you agree to be under their jurisdiction. Because why? Because they needed you to go back to this first statement here that's highlighted, but a corporation of another state is not a person within the jurisdiction of the state until it has complied with the conditions of admission to do business in that state. Now, why is that important that they had to go through all of that trickery and have the whole public school system not teach you this when you were going through school, so you wouldn't know. Why is that so important? So that they can get control over you. Why is it that simple, and why is it so important? It's right there in the second part that I have highlighted for you. It has been held that when the word person is used in a legislative act, natural person, or it actually says natural persons, right, plural, will be intended unless something appear in the context to show that it applies to artificial persons. So guess what? If you never checked one of those boxes, if you never believed that you were black, if you never called yourself Latino, you would have automatically been considered a natural person with all of your natural person birthrights. But no, we had to get all emotionally attached to the bullshit. Go start shuffling with the song and dance, shucking and jiving, as they say, right? Saying our status is, this status is better than that status. We want to be American Indian because we don't want to be black. We want to get so light skinned that they call us white. Whatever it is, right? All of it start with a person. And if you just shut the fuck up and learned some shit, you could have remained your natural person, and had your birthrights. But now, what? You done claimed a political subdivision. And what does that say for status? The legal position of individuals in or with regard to the rest of the community, right? The rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class constitute a status. Now, what does it say for a person at the beginning there? What did we go over? Here it goes. Let's go back and zoom this one in. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the right to which the place holds, entitles him, and duties which it imposes. You got to be careful when it says and duties which it imposes, right? So this is why, you worry about speeding. This is why I can never speed, because I'm a traveler. You see what I'm saying? Because duties which it imposes is on the driver. I'm a traveler. All right. So, juridical person. Here, I have this up here for you so we can tie this together, and then we'll get into the Indian portion because this is important. Now, I had to build this foundation for you because now I'm going to take you back in time to the 1800s, show you how they did the Indians. And while I'm showing you that, I want you to think about what you were taught the civil rights to be, and, Rosa Parks and the I had a dream march speech and march here and do this. And we want equal rights and, separate but equal. Think about all this shit, okay? Because if we had only read and comprehended what we read about the 1800s and when they did it to us the first time and took us out of history and called us the American Indians, we would have not fell for the civil rights movement, right? But we only have for many of us, we only have our parents and grandparents to blame for that one. But the thing is, are you going to let your grandchildren suffer the same fate because you didn't do nothing about it today? All right. So here's juridical person. A juridical person is a human legal person that is not a single natural person. See, these words are important. A juridical person is a human. This is why your job don't want you to speak intelligently. This is why they want to dumb everything down. This is why they want you to feel not proud of being able to comprehend, right? They want you to speak slang. They want you to not know words. They want you to be cool, they say. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with making intelligence cool again. Otherwise, this is our fate again and it's only going to get worse. And that's the problem we have with society, is we're watching the deterioration around us. And for many of us here at YNS7 and other places, you know, the choices are, and time is running out. If your survival depends on the eradication of ignorance, then how many options do you have to eradicate the ignorance before it must turn to extreme measures? We don't need to fire a shot. What we need to do is open these books, because they're killing us with the words. It's that simple. It's that simple. I did a video on here, YNS7. I showed you that we went over to driver versus traveler. I did a couple videos on it, and people, one of the most powerful reasons I can say why that one word makes such an impact is that 80% of police shootings, I don't care if you want to call them white, black, Latino, shot by cops, 80% of them started with a traffic stop. All because we don't know what the word driver means. They're still pulling us over, thinking that we're all drivers under their jurisdiction. So we all just learned one word. 80% of police shootings in this fucking nation would be gone tomorrow, and none of y'all would have but 20% left to complain about. 80% of police shootings start in a traffic stop. All of that happens because we don't know what the fucking one word means. One word makes that big of a difference. We're not even going to get into the monetary issues. Go watch the other video I did, 2 of them on there, and get the full rundown on that. One word, just learning one fucking word would reduce 80% of police shootings in this nation immediately. I mean, let me be truthful. It wouldn't be immediate because it would take time for them to realize that all of a sudden overnight, we all know what the word means, and we're all taking them to court, showing that we're travelers and not a driver, and they're getting hit with the lawsuits. And then they would eventually say, okay, you know what? Stop pulling them over. These motherfuckers know what they're doing now. It's costing us money or currency. But you get my point. All right, let's get back to this juridical person, and then we'll move on. So a juridical person is a human legal person, right? Not natural person. A juridical person is a human legal person that is not a single natural person, but an organization recognized by law as a fictitious person, such as a corporation, government agency, non-governmental organization, or international organization, such as the United Nations. And I'm so entertained by the fact that they put in parentheses here at your favorite little tool, Wikipedia, such as the United Nations, because I highlighted that because I want you to ask yourself at the end of the day, once you see the wordplay and once you see the similarities, what's the difference between the United Nations and what you think you're calling the United States? Now replay this sentence. A juridical person is a human legal person that is not a single natural person, but an organization recognized by law as a fictitious person, such as a corporation, government agency, non-governmental organization, or international organization, such as the United Nations. Other terms hidden in plain sight. Other terms include artificial person, corporate person, judicial person, juridical entity, juridic person, juristic person. A juridical person maintains certain duties and rights as enumerated under relevant laws. This is why you hear people like us say United States citizens waive their birthrights in exchange for privileges. The rights and responsibilities of a juridical person are distinct from those of the natural persons constituting it. I'm gonna read that last part again for you. The rights and responsibilities of a juridical person are distinct from those of the natural persons constituting it. So I want you to think for a moment, YNet7 community. I want you to take a moment of silence for all the dead people in your life. And when I mean dead, I mean dead in the sense of the paperwork. You know, the ones that attacked you, the ones that talked bad about you, the ones that formed groups to go against you, all because they didn't understand the language you shared with them, the opportunities you gave them. This is why we're angry at times. Because 15 years ago, when we came to the people in power in the community and said, hey, we could do something now before shit hits the fan, and they refused because it didn't make them money, they said, or because they would lose their control and power if they empowered you. You got to ask yourself why people like us separated from people that you worship in society. And then you got to determine what side of the fence you're going to be on. Because this is America. And it's going to always be America. With or without you. So let's look at this American Indian situation. Let me see here. Did I cover the full juridical? I know it had something in there. Yeah, let's go over this last little portion real quick. Since the beginning of writing, I mean, this is not the full clip. Of course, I just took this to give you the breakdown. You know how I always say, I like showing you this stuff so that you can go back and research it in more depth at your leisure in the future. Be sure to share this video with everybody that needs to join the critical mass. So since the beginning of writing at the start of recorded history, associations have been known as the original form of the juridical person. This is documented for the 1st century AD for Jewish trading companies. And in Roman law, entities gained significance through institutions such as the state, communities, corporations / universitats, or universitates, and their associations of persons and assets, as well as associations. At least 3 persons were required in Rome to found an association. So there's 2 signatures on your currency, and you make the 3rd association when you exchange it in agreements for value. Ooh. Fiat currency scare nightmare. Ooh. The Trinity, didn't know it was there. Didn't realize what those signatures were, did you? Non-white at 7 people. That's why you need to subscribe. Okay? So, juridical person. Human legal person, not single natural person. Okay? So, they're getting you on the IS or SF-181.com to go through their admission process to certify you believe to be under their jurisdiction, because you don't know. Many of us are caught up on what the words behind it is, but the first 2 is where they get you with calling you a person, and they never told you what kind of person they're assuming you to be. All right. Now we get to the good stuff and we can wrap this up. Let me make sure. Let me see my notes here. All right. So now that we got all that on the table, let's go back to this picture of the person where I said I highlighted an Indian is a person, right? Why would that be so important? Okay, here's why it's so important. Let me hold on, give me a second here. Hold on, give me a second here. Hey. All right. This one. Yeah. Okay. This is the beauty of something like the Black's Law Dictionary, okay? Because, like I said, it gives you a court case to reference there. And when you do some research on that court case, as after it says an Indian is a person, you'll find very quickly that it references this document here. The document here is from 1936, okay? So it says, hold on, let me make sure you can see this. Nope, see? Good thing I checked. All right, there we go. Excuse me. So it says, or it is called, Decisions of the Department of the Interior, edited by George A. Warren. I bet he was Warren. All right? Because these words are the war play. Who was the artist? Put it in the comment. But put it in the comments below who the artist was that made the song. All it really is wordplay, right? Okay. All right. So, Decision of the Department of the Interior, Volume 65. Now, this is why it was so important to get you to what some people call create joiner, right? But basically, get you to admit that they have jurisdiction over you, whether you knew what you were saying or not. Now, I'm just going to scroll down to this, right? And you see the little official stamps and seals and all this shit. You know, it's hundreds of pages. On page 564 on the date 1936 should be 1935. You know, so there's hundreds of pages on this, right? That is probably why, you know, we don't know this stuff, because we don't invest the time because of time constraints. You know, we got a busy life. They keep us busy. Most of us, they keep your electric bill high, so you got to go figure out how to pay that. And you don't have time, you feel like, to read 100 pages, you know, because the game was so important last night that you saw LeBron, you know, break the scoring records that you just couldn't read the hundreds of pages that would have freed your ass. But you know, you know how many points LeBron scored, and you was there that day on NBC on your couch, you know, when he did it, right? You'll be able to tell your grandchildren that, but you won't be able to tell them how to fucking free themselves. But you know, regardless of that, you know, your grandchildren will still suffer from the stereotyping. You know, people will be able to rely on the stereotypes and confuse them into believing that they're something that they're not, so they can have power over them and control them, because they won't know any better because you were too busy keeping stats on LeBron. So social influence and peer pressure is going to fuck them up, because they won't know how to fight that shit, right? You want them to know how to punch people in the mouth. They don't even know how to talk. So that's why they'll have to punch people in the mouth, because they won't be able to speak. And then, you know, then we'll be shooting each other, because why? It goes back to us not knowing what the words mean, and we can't communicate with each other, you know. But don't worry about that. Just keep focusing on those LeBron scores so that we can keep the confirmation bias, because people tend to seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs or assumptions. You know, we won't do anything to counteract that. You know what I mean? And we'll get cognitive ease, because it's mentally easier just to accept and believe and go along with everything normative social influence, just to fit into the fucking sick ass society of people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, so that you can watch the next game next year and see the next scoring record broken on your couch while you're worried about paying your electric bill that should be free for all of us, right? But the game was more important to you. Okay? Now let's look at this document. So let's read this preface. It's this long. It won't take long, and then I'll get into the important part here, and it'll be very quick. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So in 1883, the Department of the Interior began publication of the more important decisions of the Land Department with the view to preserving in authentic manner. Remember, we went over authentic, right? The danger of that word. Okay, so with the view, go watch the video if you didn't. With the view of preserving in authentic manner and in permanent form. See, in authentic manner and in permanent form. This fucked up everything right here. It fucked up everything right here. So, convenient for reference, a line of consistent precedents in departmental rulings illustrating the land laws of the United States. You see, this is why it was important for them to make sure the Indians of the time believed that they were persons, because that gave them jurisdiction over them, and then they could preserve in an authentic manner. Means they could make them form into the box that they want them to adhere to, so they can rate them and rank them, right? Become one of us, so we can do what we want with you. If you stay out there as a natural person, we can't fuck with you. But come on in here. You ours now, you mine now, right? So, and then the fucking part is in permanent form. So once we get you in here, this is gonna be forever. Forever, my lady. Right? You're gonna be forever they bitch. All right? So, preserving in authentic manner and in permanent form, convenient for reference, a line of consistent precedents in departmental rulings illustrating the land laws of the United States. See, now that you think you're American Indians and you agree to being a person without asking us what kind of person we said you are, now we get to illustrate the land laws of the United States. And guess what that means? Prior to that time, only the published decisions of the department were those by private reporters. Private, see, private, not public. Private reporters. The more familiarly known being Brainard, Cop with 2 P's, and Lester. As originally conceived, the publication entitled Decisions of the Department of the Interior Relating to Public Lands, and thereafter referred to as land decisions. Like, we done decided this shit now, motherfucker. We gotcha. It has been decided. So pertained almost exclusively to matters coming under jurisdiction of the General Land Office. Hold on. Let me make sure I got. Yeah, I'm showing you. Okay. So, where was I? Pertain almost exclusively to matters coming under the jurisdiction of the General Land Office and a few matters from the Indian Office. See, the Indians or us, we had our own shit. We had our own office. They couldn't tell us what the fuck to do because we were our own. We were not desegregated. Gradually, the jurisdiction of the department has been enlarged by the creation of new bureaus, among them being the Bureau of Reclamation, the Geological Survey, and the National Park Service. Many new laws have been enacted and policies established relating to the Indians and Indian affairs. So they're saying we created these new laws so we could control y'all asses. So now we got to get you to believe that you're fucking Indians so we can show you in authentic manner and in permanent form that shit applies to you. Right? If you didn't check that box, it wouldn't apply to you. Remember, you would have been your natural person. Okay. But this was a big paperwork war. This is what decided a lot of this future on what you see today. Okay, so stay with me here. We're almost done. So, yeah, many new laws have been enacted and policies established relating to the Indians and Indian affairs. Notice they didn't say to the United States citizens. They didn't say to Americans. They said no. They said we enacted some laws to y'all motherfucking Indians and Indian affairs, right? New and important problems in other bureaus and services are constantly arising and call for a solution. Like we gotta do something about this shit because we were beating their asses basically in this battle here because we were natural persons. They couldn't move you from being natural persons, so they couldn't rob you of your birthrights until you check the damn box for entertainment purposes. So consequently, there has been an increasingly growing demand for the publication of decisions by the secretary and his assistant secretaries and opinions by the solicitor relating to the matters other than those pertaining to the public lands. Now remember, when they say Indians, I want you to mentally replace that word with Americans as we described it earlier. North, Central, and South America. All right. On July 7th, 1930, the secretary issued an order amending the title so as to read Decisions of the Department of the Interior and directing that thereafter leading decisions and in important opinions relating to all activities of the department be published in the future volumes, blah, 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 blah. Just going to say that they're going to publish future shit, right? So what was so important about this? What was the problems? Well, if you scroll down with this page, right, it gives you here the officer, it gives you some names, you know what I mean? Sound all official and important and shit. Office of the solicitor, you know, board of appeals, you know, assistant solicitors. It's 20 of those motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? It looks so official. Well, let's look at this shit here, right? Let me make this bigger. Let me zoom in here. Let me go here. Let me make sure you can see this shit. Okay, yeah, that's good size where you can see that shit. All right. These are the issues that were on the table. And you can see there were many of them. Let's just look at some of these titles real quick, okay? So we got shit going on like absences from the homestead lands because of economic conditions, right? Look at that. Absences from the homestead lands because of economic conditions, all right? Acreage limitation of Taylor Grazing Act. Okay, so they're going they got some issues about limiting the acreage for grazing. Oh, so if you can't feed your animals, you can't feed you, right? So we're gonna make sure that shit's thrown up in there. What we got over this side? California state. Okay, let's see what we got over here. Title to lands for railroads right of way. Oh, you better fucking believe that was a problem for their ass, right? When they talk about problems, they needed the title to the land for the railroad right away. What? You see how much they go through now trying to get someone to sell their house for gentrification issues so they could rezone it or put up a building or knock it down, whatever, put a road, a highway, and they holding out. You see those little, you be scrolling through TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and you see the little house sitting there. In China, they had to build a road around it and shit. They were mad as fuck because instead of going straight, they had to go around the little house. The motherfucker sitting there on like a cliff because they dug everything out around him, but he still ain't moved. You see what I'm saying? Chickasaw nations title to lands for railroad rights of way. You see why they had to make these motherfuckers believe they were persons so they could tell them they were now under their jurisdiction and they didn't have a choice anymore? Do you see why they want you to check that fucking box? Because the railroad coming through, motherfucker. You just gotta ask yourself, what's today's railroad 2023? The digital currency? What is it? A mortgage? What is it? Social credit score? What's today's railroad 2023? Put that in the comments below. We're going to keep reading some of these titles here. All right. Coal, sodium, potash. I don't even know what potash is, but coal, sodium, potash, and other mineral license fees and a company applications. You better believe when they said they had problems Look at these titles of what they had now resolved, all because one leader of the nation of Indians checked the box. I ain't gonna say one leader. The people agreed that now that they were American Indians instead of natural persons. Now they can resolve all this shit. Coal trespass regulations. Coal might as well have been nuclear fuel back then. You might as well have been talking about plutonium and fucking atomic power plants. Coal trespass regulations. Right? Look at this shit. Alaska, disposal and leasing of lands. Allotments of public lands to Indians and Eskimos. Oh, now they get to tell you what's yours and what's not yours. You get an allotment. You get an allowance now. See what I'm saying? What else we got? I mean, we ain't even get, look, this is just the first page. We ain't even get halfway down the first page yet, and we got major fucking monetary shit, right? You talking about who gave up resources. You want to talk about why we ain't got no resources. Who checked the fucking box that gave up all these freaking resources? That's who. That's why. That's why they want you to check the box today. Okay? Let's look at this shit. I mean, because when I was scanning through it, this is amazing. This is amazing. What else we got here? Death Valley of all places. Death Valley National Monument. Appropriation of water. Water! In the 1800s, 1900, they was appropriating water in Death Valley. Oh, it's hot as fuck out here. You only get 3 cups. Shouldn't have checked the box, motherfucker. Right? This is the type shit that can be done when you don't understand the contracts you're agreeing to and you don't understand these words. I know, Judas. I know. They were laughing and thinking they were getting something too. And I'm gonna show you in a moment. They ain't laughing when they did that march 100 years later. It took them 100 years to figure out what the fuck they finally checked on that box. All right, hold on. Let's keep going. And I'm gonna scroll down this. I just wanted to really point out the titles on this so that you can see the magnitude of the issues and how, just imagine how this affected not only life for the people in the 1800s and early 1900s, but just imagine what checking the fucking box does for you today. Elections under Indian Reorganizations Act. But look at this one. Electric energy. Sale from Hectory Power Site, California. Electricity, they were able to regulate electricity on these motherfuckers. El Porto Mining Company. So there we got more resources, right? Exchanges of lands in Apache, Navajo, and Conconino counties, Arizona. They taking the land, they taking the resources, they tell them how much water they can drink. This is some fucked up shit. Why? Because they wanted to be a person instead of a natural person. They wanted to be a part instead of separate. Kind of sounds familiar, right? But they mad at us because we're not United States citizens, and we don't think you really think you should be either, but we can't tell you what to do. But you're starting to affect our shit over here, and you're kind of fucking everything up because you don't understand how normative social influence works. You know what I mean? They got you now trying to tell us we should join y'all shit, y'all religion. That's a religion. Y'all a religious cult and don't know it. Look at this. Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. Ownership of island. Like they took the island. You can't own the island no more. You check the box. You're a person. General Leasing Act. General Land Office duties. All this stuff. We only in looking at the E's and G's. There's a whole alphabet of shit here. So you get the look at this: grazing fees, grazing lands, leasing under the Taylor Act, like grazing on the public domain, cooperative agreements with stockmen, grazing permits. You know, because cattle was big shit back then. Sheep, all that. I guess all that shit. I guess they had go. You know, if you had something animal wise, it had to graze, right? They weren't shipping you you know, Amazon, Home Depot chicken feed in 1900. These were really major compliments to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that they were just able to eradicate the access to the people who you might look at call Indians, right? Oh, that reminds me. Okay, so look, right? So now, that's why I take notes. Okay, hold on. Let me find my note. So look at okay. So look at it. We're looking at the table of contents, right? And they had to reduce the population status, you know, to get them to register as a person. In this case, the fictitious entity, to assume authority over them. And I made sure to give that note to you in that fashion because of the way the terminology is used. Now watch this. Now for those who know, the original Indians look like us, right? We were a natural people, not an original person. Okay? Because if you claim to be an original person, like we said, where does that definition come from? Now, when you go back to that point that we went over, now you can understand why you hear people speaking about today and even in the past, original American Indian is not a natural person. And why I brought that up is to say, this is why, despite the proof, there's continued existence of the $5 Indians, because all one had to do was confirm to comply with the conditions of admission to the state of being an American Indian. Remember, we went over that. See? So it didn't matter if you were genuinely American, and as long as you confirm to comply with the conditions of admission to the state of being an American Indian, you can be that person. And it was a great attack to control the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for our population, as long as they confirmed their emotional attachment to the belief of status. And this was repeated in the civil rights movement. Okay, so now I want you to see this timeline, and then we'll close out and we'll be done here this evening. Give me 1 second here. All right, cool. This is it right here. Okay, so this is the page here. It's Native American civil rights timeline, basically. Now, and it shows you here, if you look here at the top left right here, it says South Carolina's blacks and Native Americans. We went over the term blacks and the ambiguity of if we were Native American, if we were black, if there was any difference. I did a video showing you that what they taught us in school wasn't what the real American, we went over all that. But what I want you to do now is I'm just going to scroll through this timeline real quick, and I want you to think about what you remember from what they called the civil rights period, for what they taught most people was about us. But remember, it was really just to trick everybody into accepting the word person, despite where they were saying they were originally from or any of the other shit that we went over on the SF-181. The magic was in the word person, because they didn't tell you what kind of person they are, and then they allowed everybody to believe their wildest fantasy and check a box, and then bam, they got you, right? So here we go. Here's the Native American civil rights history timeline. 1986, Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court decision Jim Crow, separate but equal in South Carolina, which perpetuated segregation even for Native American Indians communities, and the notion that Native Americans were second-class citizens. All right. 1924, the right to vote. 1924, the federal government officially classified American Indians as citizens. And we're given the right to vote because then you have to register to vote. Remember, we went over that. Double registration, got you double times. So this was done after Native American Indian had already fought in 3 wars for the United States of America. All right. 1934, Indian Reorganization Act. U.S. Congress passed the Indian Reorganization Act. This new policy sought to protect American Indians from loss of their lands and provided funds for economic development. It also helped reestablish tribal governments. See, they always make it sound so great when they write the history. Reorganization Act. No, the policy sought to protect American land. No, it assigned them. Protect American Indians from loss of their lands. No, it assigned them where they wanted them to be. Right? Provided funds for economic development. Oh yeah, we're gonna pay for you to go the fuck over there and stay the fuck out of our way. The railroad's coming, motherfucker. Right? You see what I'm saying? It sounds so good when they rewrite it though. Okay? That's why I had to show you the other document first. Desegregation of Native American Indians, 1943-44. There were 19 elementary schools classified, special schools serving these Indian communities. These were segregated American Indian schools serving various Native American communities throughout the state, including blah, 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 right? 1944, the NCAI founded. About 100 Indian people met to create the nation's first large-scale national organization, the National Congress of American Indians. This organization was designed to monitor federal policies. Today, over 250 member tribes work to secure the rights and benefits to which they are entitled. But guess what's different now? They're not natural person if they're claiming to be American Indian. So guess what? They don't have birthrights, rights. They have the privileges. Remember the duties that are assigned, like we went over, with claiming that they're an American Indian person. 1945, Catawba Indians. During the 1950s, more than 100 tribes were legally terminated. Lands, assets were lost. Thousands of Indians were relocated by the federal programs to the culture shock of the urban slums, and tribal governments were generally weakened. Now, wait a minute. How could you have that in 1945 if they so eloquently in 1934, put the fun? Oh, that's right, Pasha. You just said the funds were to move them the fuck out the way and tell them where to go. Okay, we see it now. 1934, they told you it sounded so great. And then in 1945, you got the Catawba. 11 years later, they find out what really was the deal from checking the box 11 years prior. 1961, NIYC founded. Youth activism continued to rise around the country. The National Indian Youth Council organization was formed, resurrected a sense of national pride, right, among young American Indians and to instill an activist message. Then you have 1968, the American Indian movement. Is this like their version of Black Lives Matter? Right? So the American Indian movement was primarily urban Indians who believe that direct and militant this is more like the Black Panthers, or which one was it? Black Panthers or Black Lives Matter, or was it both? Okay, so the American Indian movement was primarily urban Indians who believed that direct and militant confrontation with the U.S. government was the only way to readdress historical grievances and gain contemporary civil rights. This group believed the tribal governments organized under IRA in 1934 were not truly legitimate or grounded in traditional Indian ways. No, they weren't, because you're not the natural person you used to be anymore. You're now the artificial person that they get to tell you how to be authenticated by. Because you're not genuine no more. See, that's why you gotta go back and watch the other video against that shows you the difference between authentic and genuine. See, when people like, Pasha, what have you done in the community? You ain't done nothing for the community. We ain't see you do nothing for the community. Motherfucker, I'm saving y'all asses for those who take an hour to watch a video instead of the game. You waiting for me to show up with a truck of turkeys that I bought from the people trying to kill you, that they injected with the poisons to kill you with. You want me to bring you and deliver the turkey to kill you so you can feel like I fed you while you die from the poison in the turkey that, you know, because you didn't want to watch the video and salute and contribute to that shit, but you would worship me if I was a dude to pull up in your community once a year, by the way, with a truckload of turkeys that you get about a pound discount on and write off on your taxes. But because I sit here and dedicate this time, energy to fucking bring you and show you the knowledge, there's people out there that say Pasha don't do nothing for the community. This is why you don't see me with them, right? Because they're trying to brainwash you into going into their programming, and you see how that cycle works. 11 years, they'll be the ones out there marching saying, no, every box we told you to check, we want you to go back and uncheck it. We should have, they won't say we should have listened to Pasha or the people like us or the YNet 7 crew. They're going to just be like, you know, while they were up there making all their money and getting those grants and getting those little fundings and all that stuff and laughing at you because you were out here struggling, you know, trying to hang on to the truth. Well, you see what road they led the Pied Piper down. Now look, it's the same thing that didn't happen to the Indians. It's the same thing that happened to the whole nation, white, black, Latino, Asian, civil rights movement. Are you gonna allow your grandchildren to make the same mistake for a third, fourth, fifth time? I don't need to get paid for this. I just need you to watch the video. Most High gonna make sure I can keep doing this for you. Or if this is the last video I do for you, motherfucker, you better be grateful that you got it. So, 1972, NIYC founded the Indian Education Act, authorizing funding for special bilingual and bicultural programs, culturally relevant teaching materials, and appropriate training. So this was the brainwashing, basically. Yep, we got funding to give you special bilingual because we don't want you to be natural anymore. We're going to change that shit. Yep, we're going to change that right up. We're going to tell you what you can believe about your past, what you can't believe about your past. Sound familiar, right? We're going to make sure you got the relevant teaching materials. That old shit you learned, throw that away. You don't need that no more because that's how you were living for free. We need you to learn how to live and pay us. Pay us on everything you got. Be our slaves mentally. We're going to put you in this little camp, call it a reservation, and then, you're going to be good. We're going to give you the appropriate trainings. We're going to hire you some counselors to help you deal with the motherfucking trauma. And, we'll call it therapy. We won't call it therapy. We're just going to call it hiring of counselors, right? We're going to give you some funding. So you see what funding does for the community, right? Every time we went over this, each one of these said funding, and then 10 years later, they're like, fuck, we done fucked up with what they were funding. We got fucked up by what they were funding. So again, all your little friends out there running, talking about they getting grant money and shit, be careful you calling them your friends. Unless you playing on that side of the fence. Because all this funding, everything they done said funding for 10 years later, it's like, oh shit, we didn't realize, right? Now here you go, 1733, wounded knee. After a violent confrontation in 1972, tribal president Richard Wilson condemned the AIM and banned it from the reservation. In February 1973, AIM leaders and 200 activists took over the village of Wounded Knee, announced the creation of Agalala Sioux Nation, declared themselves independent from the U.S. The siege lasted 71 days, during which time the federal marshals, FBI agents, and armored vehicles surrounded the village. AIM members agreed to end their occupation under one condition: the federal government convened a full investigation into their demands and grievances. Excuse me. So now, look at this. Go scroll back up here. 1968, the AIM movement was created. 5 years later, Wounded Knee happened. They were fucking taking shits for siege. The feds come in. Now the feds all in your shit, right? Why? All because of this. What would they do? American, lead urban Indians who believe that direct the militant. Yep. Yep. So let's get militant because we can't read. And then what happens in a situation like that? Now, you got really strong minded, physically strong warriors in every culture. They're going to go sign up for some shit like this at the time in 1968 because of their emotional attachments to beliefs. I remember, I won't disclose who, but I remember when the whole Black Lives Movement thing was popping off and shit was popping off and the Proud Boys and all this shit. And there was a group that wanted to ride out and go 4 hours away to protect the neighborhood. And I was just like, if you go 4 hours away to protect that neighborhood, who's protecting the neighborhood you left? That sound, I'm Pasha Paroh. That means general, right? High-ranking general, political figure. You play chess. Like, if it just seemed like an ambush opportunity. Not only to ambush you there, but then to leave your own neighborhood unprotected because you went somewhere else to protect. Anyway, the point of the matter, what I was getting at is now you get the strong-minded, emotionally, remember, they're still emotionally attached to the belief of this, right? So they get all involved, and then here, look, 4 years later, now they're in a standoff with the feds, the federal marshals, the FBI agents, armored vehicles, and the village is surrounded. So what that mean? If they didn't die in that event, let's just say now they got taken to prison and they're doing decades in prison, let's just say, right? Now your whole community is wiped out of all of its strong warriors because your leadership didn't give them the proper tools to control their emotions to actually really truly protect the community, and they reacted to their emotions instead of responding, and then they left the community vulnerable for 20 years for invasion. Now the feds can do whatever they want in the community because there's no educated, there's no strong warriors, everything's wiped out, and the only thing that's left is the weak and the women. And then you wonder why 50 years later, right? That was 73. So then you wonder why 50 years later in 2023, they've taken control of the women population minds mentally, and they're controlling the men to be weak, and they're teaching the men, oh no, don't fight society, adapt to it. You're supposed to be able to adapt to this shit, honey. No, adapting to your own fucking slaughter, right, is why you laugh at the pigs at the farm. Is why they make the movie Charlotte's Web, or in the book Charlotte's Web or whatever, right? Animal Farm. But you may or may not read those. This is why they got the story of the frog in the pot of boiling water. The water started out room temperature and the frog was cool, it was chilling. And then the heat was turned up and the water started to get warm. But the frog was like, nah, I can adapt to this shit. It's getting hot, but I can adapt to it. I'm a frog. This ain't nice. And then next thing you know, it's boiling and he's dead. Why? Because he kept adapting to the worsening conditions instead of fucking leaving or doing something about it. So now they got your women program to tell you, no, adapt to this shit. Keep adapting. Adapt. And then next thing you know, the water's boiling and you're dead. And then they're telling you, oh no, Pasha and his people on 187, they're complaining. They're crybabies. They're, you're strong. You're adapting. Yeah, no, you're dead, motherfucker. That's what you are. All because you addicted to some pussy. And you sitting up there going through all this bullshit so that you can please the chick that's going to leave you, and the government going to give her half of everything you got, all because you signed and checked the box. Because you still checking boxes. So I don't give a fuck who laughs at us. I don't give a fuck who talks about us behind our back. I don't give a fuck that they go get their little cliques and get 40 people to go and sabotage your life and this and that, because we are going to be America with or without them. 1976, blacks and Native Americans, the South Carolina's blacks and Native Americans, 1776 through 1976 Bicentennial Project explored issues surrounding these communities and published the findings in a book. This was produced by the State Human Affairs Commission and was chaired by Dr. Mariana W. Davis. And then in 1976, you got the longest walk. The longest walk was major national protest event that began in San Francisco, where a group of American Indians set out to Washington, D.C. to symbolize the forced removal of Indians from their ancestral homes. They also wanted to draw attention to the growing governmental and public backlash against efforts to protect Indian treaty rights and native peoples. So it took them 100 years. Let me get back with you here. It took them roughly 100 years to finally say, fuck. We're going to march now from San Francisco to DC to protest this shit. You check the box, got 100 years of abuse, torture, trauma, gaslighting, robbery, betrayal, rape, pillage, money going, whatever, everything, resources stripped. They told you how many cups of water you could have. They told you where you could drink at. And then the icing on the cake is 100 years later. You decide as a people, so frustrated, you're going to walk. You're going to walk from San Francisco to California, to DC. And they in their offices laughing the fuck at you. Because it's 100 years later. And it took everything from you. And then you're walking from California to DC to get attention on something they already knew 100 years ago when they asked you to check the box. Now, for entertainment purposes, I want you to realize, like I said, the parallels between that and the civil rights situation for us. I want you to realize that it doesn't matter original persons, black racial groups, none of that. It's the magic is in the word person. I did a song, people probably found it funny because it maybe it didn't sound as refined as something that came out of the industry when I was doing stuff myself here. But the message in it just told you what a person was. And the reason I don't give a fuck about, I do shit like that, and the reason I put it out without it being so what people would call perfected, is because people who know the message is perfect. But again, you're waiting for it to sound good enough for you. Those people who are waiting for it to sound good enough for them, the message may never reach them. And that's because it's not for them. So those who are in tune and due to receive the message, remember their duties per their status, right? Now think about to take the status to the higher level when you got people talking about spirituality, and your connection with source and all this, right? You got a status there too. So if you don't have the proper status, you're not going to get the alignment. You're not going to get those duties, period, anyway. You can be worried about the earthly shit. Once you perfect that, you can spend some time focusing on the eclectic, right? the fourth dimensional shit, right? And you can get that right. Once you got both right, okay. Now you're getting downloads that other people aren't getting. Why? Because your status on multiple levels is in alignment with you as a natural person. Okay? Let me make sure I covered everything here for you real quick. Yeah, 100 years later. Yep. And then that's it. It's the same magic trick. Okay? So what was the title of this one today? I'm putting it on the screen. That's why I paused. So the case of the American Indian and your civil rights today. So if you appreciate the knowledge that I connected here for you today, I'm gonna say I probably didn't tell you guys nothing that you didn't already know, right? Because the hardest part of having wisdom is remaining disciplined to the knowledge. I like to hope that I just reminded you of something, because you'll learn something, you'll hear something, but if you don't understand the significance of it, you won't be able to apply, you won't be able to see it as wisdom because you can't apply the knowledge of it. So 24 hours ago, some people that watched this didn't know the significance of the word person. Despite how many times they heard it from me alone here and other people in their life. But after this video, they'll have a different cognitive perspective of that word person, the construct, the magic, the spell behind it. You've heard them tell you this is spiritual warfare. You see how they stripped the Americans because they wanted to check the box. The Indians, Americans. They got you checking boxes today. Are you going to let your grandchildren continue to check the box? Do you want to be called black just so you can feel a part of something that you don't even know what you're a part of? Do you want to run from being black to American Indian because you feel like that's better when they both start with a person that you don't know maybe or didn't know before? It's the same damn trap. Share this video with 5 people that you care about. Drop me some comments. Let me know what kind of topics you want to hear in the future. Personal shit you got going on in your life. Not like personal, like you want to, if you want to share, cool. But on the level of like personal questions that you may have, I don't mind if it's something that I don't know. I know enough to maybe connect it, do some research, and then bring together a presentation for you to show how it fits into what we've already talked about here. I guarantee you, all of this is energy transfer. Okay, that's all we do. It's quantum physics. All right. So Pasha Paroh, YNet7, appreciate you. Peace. Move the buttons on me here. It's been 2 months. Okay, here we go. All right.